Okay, let's dive into this essential revision guide for H.G. Wells's terrifying classic, The War of the Worlds. We're going to break down exactly what you need to know to turn your knowledge of the novel into a top-grade essay.
So, you've read the novel. That's fantastic. But knowing the story of the Martian invasion, that's really only half the battle. To really impress your examiners and hit those top marks, you need to think like a literary critic. You see, it's not just about what happens, but why it matters and how Wells makes you feel it. That's the secret we're going to unlock today.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to crack the examiner's code. Then, we'll take a deep dive into the world of the novel, the context, the characters, and of course, the big ideas. After that, we'll peek inside Wells's writer's toolbox before putting it all together to build that perfect top-grade essay.
Right, let's start with the most important part, the rules of the game. Your essay isn't just marked on how much you know, it's marked against a really specific set of criteria. We call them the assessment objectives, or AOs for short.
Think of these 4 AOs as your blueprint for success. Seriously, every single mark you can get is tied directly to one of them. So if you get these, you get exactly how to write a brilliant essay. Let's break them down one by one.
First up, AO1. This is your foundation. It's all about proving you know this novel inside and out. And you do that with precise details, and this part is absolutely crucial, by weaving in short, powerful quotations to back up every single point you make.
Next is AO2, and this is where we move beyond just the plot. This is where you explore the deeper meaning. What is this story really all about? This is where you show you understand the characters, their conflicts, and the big ideas, the themes that Wells is digging into.
Now listen up, because this one is where the top grades are really won and lost. AO3. It is not enough to just say what Wells writes. You have to analyze how he writes it and the effect that has. Why did he pick that word? Why create that image? That's the level of thinking we're aiming for. And finally, AO4. This is all about your own informed response. Are you building a confident, consistent argument all the way through your essay? This is where your unique take on the novel really gets to shine, as long as it's backed up by that solid evidence we just talked about. Okay, with those objectives locked in, let's dive into the novel itself. To really score high on AO2, understanding the ideas, we have to understand the world Wells was actually writing in. Context isn't just some boring background information, it is the key that unlocks the novel's deepest meanings. You've got to remember, Wells was writing at a very specific time. The British Empire basically dominated the globe, and there was this powerful feeling that they were just invincible. But Wells, he was a socialist, and he was deeply critical of this imperial power. He saw all the anxieties bubbling just beneath the surface, and that is a crucial point to bring into your essay. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates the core political message of the book. Wells takes the experience of being colonized, something the British Empire was doing all over the world, and he forces his readers to feel that terror and that helplessness for themselves. It's such a powerful and unforgettable reversal. Okay, let's look at the characters now. Wells uses them to stage this incredible clash of ideas about how humanity reacts when the world basically ends. And the key matchup you need to analyze is the narrator versus the curate. As you can see here, Wells sets up this really powerful contrast. Look at the narrator's column. It's all about science, logic, observation. And then you look at the curate's column. Panic, collapse, a total shattering of faith. Wells literally traps these two guys in a ruined house together to ask this huge question. What do we actually turn to when civilization falls apart? All right, let's move on to the novel's big ideas. Nailing your analysis of the themes is absolutely essential for AO2. We're going to focus on the 2 most important ones you can write about.
First, and maybe most importantly, this novel is a blistering critique of Victorian arrogance. There's a great word for this, hubris. It's like a dangerous, blinding overconfidence. And this applies to humanity as a whole and to the British Empire specifically.
Wells just completely demolishes this illusion. He introduces a technologically superior race that treats humans with the exact same disregard that humans treated animals, or that the British Empire treated the people in its colonies. All of a sudden, humanity is not at the top of the food chain anymore.
So the second big idea is all about survival. Back then, the theory of Social Darwinism, a kind of survival of the fittest for society, was super popular. Wells definitely explores this, but he does it with a really fascinating twist. In the end, humanity doesn't win.
It's that simple. Our armies, our intelligence, our technology, it's all completely useless against the Martians. Instead, these incredible invaders are defeated by the smallest, most invisible organisms on the entire planet, common bacteria. The one thing they never even considered, because they had no immunity. And this is Wells's ultimate point about that hubris we were talking about. Despite all our amazing achievements and this belief that we control the world, we are ultimately still subject to the immense and, frankly, indifferent forces of the natural world. Nature, not humankind, is the ultimate power here.
Okay, let's get to the analysis that is really going to push your grade up. This is all AO3, the writer's craft. How on earth does Wells make this totally fantastic story feel so real and so terrified?
Well, Wells makes a series of absolutely brilliant choices. First, he tells the story in the first person, which puts you right in the middle of the horror. Then he grounds it in reality with this factual, almost journalistic tone, using real street names and places. It makes you feel like you're reading a news report, not a piece of fiction. And he's a master of pacing, slowly building the dread before he just unleashes that unforgettable, destructive imagery.
So we have all the ingredients. How do we put them all together into an essay that makes it easy for an examiner to give you top marks? Well, it all comes down to a clear, simple structure.
Follow this simple 4-step structure every time, and I promise you can't go wrong. Start with a short, sharp intro that directly answers the question. Then your body paragraphs. That's where you earn your marks. Just remember the formula. Make a clear point, back it up with evidence from the text, and then explain how Wells's methods create meaning. That's your AO3 analysis. Finally, wrap it all up with a concise conclusion. This isn't just about being tidy, it's about making your argument impossible to ignore.
And that's your guide to acing the War of the Worlds. The novel ultimately leaves us with this really powerful warning about our own vulnerability, forcing us to consider the unpredictable forces that could completely upend our world. It's a chilling question that honestly feels even more urgent today than it did for Wells's readers way back in 1898.